We're going to begin the program here in about 60 seconds, but before we do, we want to thank some important people. First of all, the chairs of this event, Dorothy Morris and Rush Harding, love both of them.
Sure do.
And two folks who've been given in this community and around the state for a long time, Lisa Ann Rockefeller and Don Monroe. Those four folks are so instrumental in what we're doing here with this event, and they do other things across the state as well, but thank you. They're making tonight special. Hello everyone, my name is David Basil. I am so thrilled to be your host for this very special occasion. I'm joined by Lisa Fisher, my friend of almost 4 decades. Can we say that?
A long time.
This occasion is going to be special because we're going to be raising awareness and money for the Gaines House, which we love. And also we're going to be honoring you with the Sandra Wilson Cherry Award, which we'll talk about later, but it's so deserving for you to get that.
Thank you so much. I'm so humbled and honored. We'll do a little of that later.
Yes.
But first, we have some stories to tell. And one thing you know about the Gaines House, but you might not if you're just watching us now, but the Gaines House is a beautiful home in downtown Little Rock. In fact, talking about beautiful facilities and homes, we're in Dreamland Ballroom down on 9th Street. Google that when you get a minute, not now.
B.B. King, Ella Fitzgerald, they've all performed here.
Right, it's an amazing building. And that's how we feel about the Gaines House. The Gaines House was built over 100 years ago. In the last 50 or so years has been housing women in a transitional setting if they've dealt with maybe mental illness, addiction, alcoholism, maybe domestic violence. And that's what this home is all about. So we're so glad to tell you more about the Gaines House.
We're going to give them a chance to meet some of the women who've been in the Gaines House. But I'm just going to tell you right now, you've got to stick around to see the story of Lisa Fisher. I've known you for 4 decades and did not know your backstory. I hope there's some handkerchiefs around here because I may get emotional. I've seen it 4 or 5 times.
Me too.
It's a great story, and for others to see it, I think it will be uplifting and encouraging.
Yes, and it kind of ties into what the Gaines House is all about. So sit back, relax. If you're drinking a glass of wine, if it's nighttime, if it's daytime, no judgment from us. Just enjoy this video on the Gaines House.
My name's Katie, and I'm a former resident of the Gaines House. So I'd say what brought me here was domestic violence. It's a dark place. I lost my apartment. I was married to a drug addict, and I needed to start over. The Gaines House is a safe haven. I just like knowing that someone was watching out for me.
The goal of the Gaines House is to provide a safe, supportive home to women that have mental health diagnoses and physical disabilities.
The Gaines House helped me to be able to embrace the fact that a diagnosis of being mentally ill is nothing to be ashamed of. It's a part of who I am and not what I am.
The thing that really is so wonderful about Gaines House is that you're helping ladies get off the streets, get away from a homeless situation where many times they're preyed upon, and they're able to come here, feel safe, welcome, and loved in this home environment.
My favorite thing about this place is it's genuine. The atmosphere here was calm. And then at dinner time, everyone comes together. It's like a family. It really was. This is just a big, nice house. I liked it. I had a big, tall room with the fireplace and one roommate. I enjoyed laying there and just reading, getting myself together. It's way more than a shelter. It's like having your own home.
Homeless women, many, many times, will have been assaulted. They will have been taken advantage of. They will have been abused. It's very important that we treat not only the underlying causes of the homelessness, but to help them stand on their own 2 feet and begin to live the life that they want.
They don't want to be homeless, but Gaines House gives them that opportunity to do more than just survive, to blossom and to work and to learn. Gaines House fills this gap.
The Gaines House is a place where I didn't have a place to call home. The Gaines House makes me feel courageous.
Looking back on it, I'm starting to think about how much I did appreciate this place.
Lisa, I love the fact that a house that was built in 1870 right here in Central Arkansas is impacting women 150 years later. It's remarkable. But you know, the Gaines House can't do it without sponsors and community partners. And so if you're watching this for the first time and you're inspired, get involved either with your money or your time because it's a worthwhile organization.
Well, money is definitely something we need right now during these trying times. You know, we're recording this during a pandemic, and think about the mental health needs of people, especially now, David. We're seeing that domestic violence numbers continue. They are getting emails and inquiries to the website because women are in distress. Families are in distress right now. And that's what the Gaines House does. It provides a transitional home for people who need the rest. They need a safe place, and that's what the Gaines House is.
I know you agree too, Lisa. I'm glad they're calling.
Absolutely.
They're seeking help. And one of the things about this event is we're going to let you meet some of the women of the Gaines House. And this is one of my favorite. Her name is Gwen.
The Gaines House to me is a refuge, a bridge over troubled waters for me. The Gaines House has meant a stabilization for me in that it brought me from a point in my life where I didn't believe I could survive. The Gaines House has been a source of character for me. It has built in me things that I didn't realize could be built in a person, like integrity, honesty, persevering, not giving in to the pressures that we so often fall prey to. The Gaines House has also given me a voice to be able to speak what it is that I feel about who I am, what I hope to accomplish in this life, where I hope to go in this life, what I hope to do in this life for people. And the Gaines House has shown me that even Gwendolyn is a person who is to be respected.
My goodness, Lisa. I'm in love with Gwen.
Dear.
She articulated everything so well. I think she mentioned the Simon and Garfunkel. It's a bridge over troubled water. That's what the Gaines House is. And then at the end, she talks about respect, that she's gained respect through the Gaines House. And it's so impactful to hear the women that have been there and done that with the Gaines House.
We've got one story we're about to show you. You and I saw it earlier, and it's the story of Lee. The crazy thing about this connection, we're all 6 degrees separation from Kevin Bacon, David Basil, and Lisa Fisher. I worked with Lee in the late 80s and 90s, had no idea she had been a resident at the Gaines House. Because, you know, people put on a tough exterior, a tough face. She at one time, she had it all together when I met her, but she might tell you a little differently. Listen to Lee's story now about the Gaines House.
What is special about Gaines House is that they give you a safe place to land. When we moved here to Arkansas, I was 12 years old. My father had been promoted to the commanding officer over the C-130 program. There's my father getting his wings. My entire life was colored by my father's mental illness. I had a very strict father. We were under his command. We were at his mercy. And what he said goes. I would just cry, and they would ask me what I was crying about. And I'd say, I don't know, because I had to tuck all that stuff. I had to tuck it in because I was being told, your shirt tail's out, you better tuck it in. Your feelings are showing, tuck it in. And you didn't know if you were going to be hugged, if you were going to be hit. I didn't realize at the time just how damaging it was. There's a picture of my dad. It was in 1958. God, I wasn't even born then. Well, I was 18 when I first started having depression and anxiety. I just checked out of the world. I checked out of reality. So I went from being a little girl to wanting to please everyone to wanting to destroy myself. And it happened really very quickly. So I was in a tough spot and had gone through a lot, and finally decided that maybe I could do something to help other people. But I hadn't taken care of everything, and I still had all that turmoil in me, and it wasn't long before it caught up. So with this therapy, I started getting a little better sense of myself and feeling a little less depressed and a little more hopeful. And at that time, the social worker I was working with said, I know it's not safe for you to go back to your parents' home. She says, but I have another proposition for you. There's this house on Gage Street, and it's a women's shelter. I was there about 3 or 4 months, and it was such a safe place to be. I knew what my schedule was. I knew what was expected of me. I knew that there was a place to go if I fell, that there was counselors to talk to, that there were other people going through the same thing I was that could relate. I had a whole community of women and professionals and counselors. I was surrounded by people who wanted to do nothing more than help me. I know what it's like to be down and out, and I know what it's like to be helped. What would it be like to help other people? I worked for 36 years as a psychiatric nurse. I have opened up hospitals. I have run clinics. I was able to do some good. I was able to take what I had learned and what kindness had been given to me and give it back to other people.
That was Lee's story. And the thing about Lee's story is she was at the Gaines house, David, over 35 years ago, but she continues to give back because the house kind of helped her kind of pull herself up from her bootstraps. And that's what the Gaines house does. Remember, this is a nonprofit. It's a 501c3 organization recognized by the Internal Revenue Service. So every dollar you give, you get credit for. We want you to think about that as you're watching this, whether it's tonight, whether it's another time. We're going to have this video up for a while because the needs at the Gaines house, they're not ending. There are women who need your support in a place, a safe place to call home.
You know, I said at the beginning of this, there were 2 purposes for this event, and one is to bring attention and money to the Gaines house.
Right.
The other is to honor you, my good friend. And for those that don't know, the Sandra Wilson Cherry Award has been given by the Gaines house. This is the 14th year. You were honorary number 14. And Sandra Wilson Cherry was an amazing attorney. She was president of the Arkansas Bar Association. She was an assistant U.S. attorney and had an amazing reputation and an amazing woman. And this award is given to honor someone who's a role model to the same kind of women that stay in the Gaines house and that are served by the Gaines house, and also that excel in business and also excel in giving back to the community. And I can't think of a more deserving recipient than you. And the amazing thing here is that sometimes you don't know what's going on in somebody's life.
Right.
We don't know about Gwen and Lee when we're driving down the street.
Right.
And little did we know that we didn't know about Lisa Fisher, somebody that I've known for 3 decades, and you've decided to tell your story for the first time now, or at least publicly, and you're going to be amazed, and you're going to be uplifted, and you're going to be encouraged.
And you might cry.
Listen, I've got my hanky right here.
Yeah.
Take a look at Lisa Fisher.
For me to tell my story of addiction, it has to start with day 1 of my life, being born to a beautiful red-haired mother in Newark, New Jersey, and an alcoholic father. My mother met my father in New Orleans. We don't look alike, but we obviously have some characteristics.
Well, my childhood was, there were some real dark days. Because when you do grow up in that, you don't know what's gonna happen the next day. So I remember those dark days, but I also remember being the kid who went to elementary school and was the one who made everybody laugh and was the one with a real light personality. But I had a lot of pain. And with a lot of pain, we mask it, right? So I masked it with humor and trying to get people to like me. A lot of times I would come home from school and my mother would be drunk and either passed out or she'd be at the kitchen table and there'd be the bottle of wine and I knew. Life was pretty tumultuous, really unsettled for me, for my mother. She had no job skills, she had no money, she had no resources. We'd been on government assistance, we'd been on welfare, and her cousin was in New Orleans. And her cousin said, "You come back here, I'll give you a job." We set off for New Orleans, and I remember thinking, okay, we're gonna start over. And I think that's what my mother thought. She thought location change will be everything. One day I came home from school and I'd gotten off the bus and my cousin was waiting outside and asked me, "Where's your mother? She's not answering the door." I led her into the apartment and we walked upstairs and my cousin had opened the door and there was my mother lying in the bed. She was dead. She had overdosed. And I remember thinking, I'm 12 years old, my mother is dead in a bedroom, I'm sitting on the stairs of that little apartment wondering, where am I gonna go? I'm an orphan at this point. I had a father who didn't want me, a brother who couldn't take care of me. I needed a place to stay that night. So I had a first cousin, Sherry Gibson, came to get me for a few days. And that was 1975, I never left. All I wanted as a 12-year-old was to feel safe and to feel protected. I didn't know I was missing it because my normal was unpredictability. As a community, we have to support people who are suffering from mental illness. I didn't know that when I was diagnosed with depression. I thought, this is my life. I was in my 30s. And for the first time, even though I had a difficult childhood, it didn't come out till I was about 36. So at 36, I get diagnosed with depression. Okay, so I went to see a therapist, and I remember that lady, she knew me and she knew my story. And she said, I forget sitting here seeing you vibrant, enthusiastic, that there's a little 12-year-old girl who woke up, who came home from school one day and her mother was dead. She said, that has to come out someplace. And for some people, it might be depression. Some people, it might be to medicate with substances, alcohol. But there is pain. And boy, no one wants to face it, but I'm so glad I did. I could overcome it. And I was on depression medicine maybe about 2 years, and I feel fine. And if I had 1 minute that I thought I was depressed, I'd get on my phone right now and call that same doctor and say, I'm in a pickle. Because I'll never go back to those dark days, I can tell you that.
Wow, Lisa, I got to tell you, it's one of the most powerful videos I've ever seen.
It still makes me cry.
It
breaks my heart that not just personally that I was affected by that and addiction and mental illness, but so many people who are hurting now, and they may not know about the Gaines House. That's why we're here now, is to kind of raise awareness for it.
And Lisa, didn't you mention something about your son in your story?
What's so crazy about this story is I didn't, like I said, know it was really a story because it was my normal. And when Jeff Daly and his team sent the video to us, we got to see it in tears. I sent it to my family in our family group text that we had. And my son called me after that and said, Mom, he goes, I cried as I heard your story. Because he said, I never thought of you as a little girl and what you went through. I always knew that there was a addiction, mental illness in the family, and substance abuse. But he said, I never thought of you as being that little girl who had to come home to a mother who might be passed out or drunk at the table with her bottle of wine. He said, I never thought of you. I said, I was 12 once, is what I told him. And he said, I just never thought of you in that term. And he said, I'm so glad I got to see a different side.
The great story is you can overcome.
I know,
You can
absolutely.
overcome.
Absolutely.
And that's why we're here, you know, talking about the Gaines House. The Gaines House can help women overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think, I want to challenge everybody watching this, share this video, share the whole
Mm-hmm.
night, because it may touch somebody. You may get somebody involved that gives money that makes a difference. And so thank you so much for sharing it. Let's get the, Allison, when you give me the award. This here, let me turn it around. Sandra Wilson Cherry Award. I can't think of a more deserving person. Love you, and so thank you for sharing this, and thank you for what you're doing for the Gaines House.
Thank you. I mean, it's just very humbling to be recognized for something that could help even one person. We say at the Gaines House, to help these is the least of these. It's biblical to help these women, the widows and the orphans and the women who have been subject of domestic violence or mental illness or addiction, whatever it is, that they're on the wrong path. And Lee told us her story, and Gwen told us her story. The Gaines House can help you. Thank you so much, and I'm so humbled by this. Thank you for even recognizing and honoring me. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa, and thanks for everyone for watching. Again, share this video over and over again, and consider being a partner, a community partner, or sponsor to the Gaines House. Thank you.